All right. In our second video in the series on the Mi Sol T, the mediant chord, as we would call it, since it's based on the mediant, we're going to see how Mi Sol T has nothing in common with Sol T and Mi. Interesting. Inversion theory isn't true. So let's take a look at the whiteboard. So what we're talking about now is we're going to talk about taking the notes Mi, Sol, and T, but changing them around a little bit, switching which notes in the bass. And so over here, last video we talked about the Mi 5-3, which had Mi, Sol, and T, and we talked about how it's a substitute for the Mi 6-3, which is Mi, Sol, and Do. And that is to say these are both then tonics. Technically, I might refer to the Mi 5-3 as a tonic substitute. But they have the same tonic function. Now, over here, I'm going to look at the notes Sol and T and Mi, but changing things up so the Sol's on the bottom. So Sol to T is a third, Sol to Mi is a sixth. So we're talking about the Sol 6-3 chord. This does not have a tonic function at all. This is I'll bet you can figure it out. It's a substitute for the Sol 5-3. Just like the Fa 5-3 and the Fa 6-3 have the same function, we have here the same function. Well, let's be consistent, right? Subs 4. It's a substitute for the Sol 5-3, Sol T, and Re. And the only thing that's changed is I have instead of a Re Do, I have a Mi, and that would resolve Mi Do in a cadence using the Sol 6-3. We'd have our Bossizons, Sol Do, we would have our Cantizons, Ti Do, and we would have not Re Do as the Tenorizons, but Mi Do. Let's get a key. Do, Ti, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Mi, Re, Do, Sol, Do, Do, Sol, Do, Do, Ti, Do, Do, Re, Do, Sol, Ti, Re, Do. This is how we would usually hear that resolving. This is an interesting color substitute because instead of going Sol, Ti, Re, Do, we're going to go Sol, Ti, Mi, Do. Do, Sol, Do, Do, Ti, Do, Do, Mi, Do, Sol, Ti, Mi, Do. Wasn't that an interesting color, that Sol, Ti, Mi? Sol, Ti, Mi, Do. Has an entire, very different color from the Sol, Ti, Re. You'll find a lot of that Sol 6-3. You'll find it in 19th century Russian music. You'll also find this in jazz, where instead of calling it 6, we had 7 to make it an octave up. And in jazz, we will often refer to this chord as the dominant 13 chord. Probably toss in the Fa Mi altizans as well. And then now we've got the dominant 7th happening here. But instead of having the Re, we've substituted in the 13th, the Mi Do instead. And it's a absolutely fantastic kind of jazz color. But the point here is that this Sol 6-3 chord is much better labeled as a 5 chord, as the 5-13 here, than it would. Romelians would say this is a 3-6, because this will confuse you. Because you'll be like, well, this 3 chord, well, I thought 3 was tonic, but this is definitely, if it's substituting for the Sol 5-3, this is definitely authentic. It's not the same chord. Sol, Ti, and Mi is not the same chord as Mi, Sol, and Ti. And this is one of the chords that Romelian theory really breaks down on. And it would make very little sense to ever, put a T in the bass and put a Ti, Sol, Mi on top of that. There is no such chord as a 3-6-4. Never use that. The T6-4 makes no sense. We're going to talk about 6-4 chords very soon. And you'll see that there's no context where a T6-4 would really make any sense. It just don't use it. But the point is, if you're thinking about things not with Roman numerals but with figured bass, you're always going to be able to tell the difference between these chords. Just because of the function. Mi in the bass, 5-3 or 6-3, tonic function. Sol in the bass, 5-3 or 6-3, authentic function. Harmony is all about that bass. not some imaginary root. It's about that bass. So the Sol 6-3, neat color, interesting color. If you're going to use Roman numerals, please call it a 513. Don't call it a 3-6 because it just doesn't behave that way. And there you go. In our last video, we're going to take a look not at the minor 3 chord, which exists in a major key. We're going to go to minor key and look at the major 3 chord, which is actually extremely common for reasons that we'll talk about shortly.